Welcome back, nerd friends. We're back at the Nerd Bench, and this week we're going to talk about 5 things that you should never do with your RC car. Maybe not just your RC car, but RC stuff in general. And the first item is something that's near and dear to my heart. I do the tech support here at Hobbywing, and I get asked all the time, what should I gear my insert motor here? And it really comes down to how safe you want to be. And overall, I tell everybody kind of the same thing. If you don't already know what to gear your motor, meaning you haven't run this motor before or had experience with a very similar motor to it, you should start out with the smallest pinion gear that fits your vehicle. That way you run no risk of causing any problems. And this applies to rock crawlers, speedrun cars, monster trucks, everything for the most part. And the general rule of thumb with gearing is that your spur gear is the big gear that's on the car. The pinion gear is the little one that goes on the motor. The smaller the pinion gear is, the less load there's going to be on the motor, the slower it's going to go as well. So it's going to be less likely to overheat or cause any problems. So if you've never set up a motor in this vehicle before, or if you're not sure, safest bet is to put the tiny pinion gear on there. You can't really undergear a motor, but you can overgear a motor very easily. All right, and the next one comes down to tuning. And this is something I still run into this day. I talk to people about it all the time. They put a new system in their car, and when they give it throttle, the wheels turn backwards, meaning it drives reverse. And the quick and easy fix for years has been to flip the throttle reverse switch on your radio so that when you give it gas, it now applies reverse to the speed control and makes the car go forward. As speed controls and stuff advanced, we started having the reverse defaulted to a lower speed, so people would do this and like, why is my forward slower than my reverse? Or more accurately, why is my reverse super fast? And it's because they're using the reverse as the forward. So you'd never really want to change your motor rotation of your vehicle or change the wheel direction of your vehicle using the throttle reverse on your radio. On a censored speed control, you have to use the settings in the speed control to do that. If it doesn't have those settings, then it's not going to allow it to be a reverse rotation motor, so to speak. So if your speed control needs to have motor rotation as a setting in it so that you can change the motor rotation. That seems silly to say, but it changes the forward direction of the motor so that when you give it gas in a vehicle that has a opposite rotation transmission, the wheels will then turn forward. Real common in rock crawlers. Some of the drift cars do it these days. There's some of the two-wheel drive off-road vehicles that for a while there had reverse transmissions. And even some of the A-scale buggies that were around for a minute there, they could either not or flip the diffs or not flip the diffs, so they had to run backwards rotation motors. I think, even more so, there's something to be said that what those rotations do to the handling of the car, so people do it for those reasons as well. But main point on that is just never use the radio's throttle reverse to change the rotation of your wheels. You want to do it through speed control settings. If it's a sensorless setup, what I usually try to do, there's 3 motor wires. The middle wire goes from the motor to the middle wire in the speed control, and then you use the outside 2 wires to dictate the rotation of the motor, is what I always say. Because if you switch those outside 2 wires, only on sensorless, it'll change the rotation of the motor's forward direction, so you can do it that way as well. A quick note, if you have Hobbywing speed controls, the Xerun series of speed controls works with the LCD program box or the OTA, the wireless module. I unfortunately don't have one on the table here, but there's the OTA wireless module that works with the Xerun series. In that XR10 or Xerun series, one speed control in the lineup, the just stock, will also work with the LED cards. If you have any speed control that works with an LED card, be it a QuicRun, Max series, or any of those, these are just simple displays and they have different stickers on them. So you can use any of these boxes, it doesn't matter what stickers on it, on any of the speed controls that the box does function with. The sticker won't match, so you use the speed controls instruction manual to know what the numbers pop up are going to mean for that particular speed control. Sometimes you get lucky, the stickers match, but not always. But don't worry, you can use the instruction manual. If you don't have the instruction manual, they're on the website in the download section. You can get them there. This is another super common mistake that happens today because people are scared of soldering, or for the European people, soldering. Using plug adapters. You buy a battery, it comes with a Dean's plug, and you don't have Dean's plug, so you'll get an adapter of whatever type. These are some that I made just in the hopes that they would work all right. And they work better than some of the pre-made adapters, but you'll find stuff like this real commonly. They have one plug on one side, one plug on another. That plugs in your battery, and it gives you this guy that solves your problem. And for some situations, they work fine, like low load applications. But lately, I've been finding that even rock crawlers are having problems with some of these adapters. So I always tell folks, never, ever, ever use adapters if you can at all help it. Get a buddy to solder it for you. Go down to a hobby shop. Change one plug in your setup so that you don't have to deal with that adapter, because they are a nightmare. They cause way more problems than they're worth as far as like voltage cutoff, shutdowns, even like failures and stuff like that, because they get so much resistance and they wear out, or they're made of such poor materials that they just don't do the job correctly. So never, ever, ever use adapters. Another one comes down to general safety, and this one I run into quite frequently, that a lot of us don't know that you should unplug your RC car when it's not actively being used. Obviously, you plug your car in, put the body on, go out to the track, you turn it on, you pick it up off the track, turn it off, and then you go back to your pits or whatever, back to your workbench. That's generally speaking fine. But if you're going to store your car, make sure that the battery pack is unplugged. Any of today's modern RC cars should always be unplugged when they're in storage for any more than, I don't know, an hour or two. That way you don't forget about it, or even less than that. I've gone to situations where we go rock crawling. We'll plug in all of our trucks, throw them in the back of the car. We'll go rock crawling, and then that truck will, let's say you got 2 or 3 trucks. One of them will stay in the truck, maybe overnight plugged in. And that's one thing, very unsafe to have your lipos just chilling out wherever they may be, getting exposed to either hot cars, cold cars, whatever the case. But more so that when a speed control is plugged in, the whole thing is getting power, and it's just asleep, so to speak. So if there's any static or shock damage, like shaking it or whatever, wires get pinched while it's all plugged in, or if something happens, you can have a much bigger failure, or you can have a failure at all. Damage can happen when normally it wouldn't happen if it was just very simply unplugged. So if your car, truck, whatever the case is plugged in, make sure that the first thing you do when you take the body off is unplug it. And if you're going to put them away, definitely reach under the body and unplug the batteries at a bare minimum. More so, any of the speed controls that have the push button on off situation, that little button draws just a teeny tiny amount of power, and over a long period of time, it actually kill your lipo completely, which is all sorts of bad. You don't want that. I guess I should point out also, just make sure you always store your lipos safely. I'm not saying store your RC car with the lipos installed, but if you're transporting stuff like that, unplug the battery. When lipos go into put away, you want to put them in your lipo bag, your lipo box, where you keep all your lipos nice and safe. And next up is one that's another safety one, and this is more about your batteries, which is general RC safety in my opinion, but never leave them fully charged or fully discharged. So that's kind of a twofer. Lipos do not like to be fully charged, and they do not like to be fully discharged. Ideally, you want them about 50%. That's give or take 3.7 to 3.8 volts per cell as a general rule of thumb. And my pro tip on that is, a lot of our chargers have a storage mode in them, so you can put the battery on there and storage charge it. And I say storage charge because I'll run them to lipo cutoff first, put them back on the charger, and then storage charge them. It's a much quicker process than a storage discharge. A lot of the chargers today, even some of the more expensive ones, it's harder to get them to discharge rapidly, and that can take forever. So you're sitting around just waiting for your batteries to discharge. Sometimes that's fine. If you've got plenty of time to kill, go that route. It's better for the battery. But worst case scenario, drive the truck around for a while, get it down a little bit, and then put it on the storage charge. But yeah, I like to take a dead battery and then go back to storage charge with the storage mode on the charger. It saves a lot of time over discharging a full charge battery. Well, as always, folks, thanks for watching another episode of The Charlie Show right here on the Hobbywing official YouTube channel. Don't forget, we have a podcast. It's called RC Stuff. You can find that on your favorite podcast service. We give away a free Hobbywing system each and every episode. All you have to do is listen to find out how to enter to win. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, please shoot us an email, northamerica@hobbywing.com. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week.